Alright, so Merab Dvalishvilli will be defending his belt against Umar Nurmagomedov at UFC 311, and this fight is insanely exciting, okay? You have a Nurmagomedov who is insanely skilled in both aspects of the striking and the grappling, and then you have Merab who just isn't good at either, but just has infinite cardio, so this makes it a very good fight, okay? And I want to give my breakdown for it. Let me know who you're picking for the main event, whether it's Merab or Umar, and while you're down there, I'd appreciate if you could like and subscribe. We're really close to 500 subs. Anyway, let me get into it. Now, Umar is a stylistic nightmare for Merab, okay? I really don't see how Merab can win this, but I feel like that's the same thing for every single Merab fight. You can't really envision how Merab is going to win, but he just does somehow. But I just don't think he will this time. Okay, I want to get into the striking first because I think this one is the most obvious to break down. I mean, no one is going to be sitting here saying that Merab is going to outstrike Umar, okay? It's just not going to happen, okay? Umar is infinitely better striking than Merab, okay? This guy is insanely talented, and then Merab, this guy have no striking, okay? You know, Merab, he doesn't have the best striking, but he can get away with it because his takedowns are basically a stand-up game, okay? He basically has no other stand-up game. But what he's able to do on the feet is Merab is he just spams takedowns. And the reason this has worked so well is because he's been fighting a lot of strikers recently. And with the strikers, they don't want to get taken down, okay? Their main game plan is to get back up to the feet so they can win the fight because that's where they're best, okay? They're not going to out-grapple Merab for the most part, which isn't the case with Umar, okay? But with Merab, he's basically able to just spam the takedowns because his takedowns are so good, okay? Merab's takedowns are insanely good. When you watch this guy's technical ability in takedowns, he's very, very good at it, okay? It's just that his ground game is not as good, but I will talk about that more later. Right now, I want to talk about the striking and why his takedowns work so well. It's because, look, when he's trying to take down a striker's going to be trying to get back up. They don't want to go on the ground for even 1 second with Merab. So then they waste all that energy getting back up. And again, Merab basically has infinite cardio, which just works to his advantage in these situations. I mean, you look at it with Sean O'Malley, Petr Yan. I think Petr Yan is probably the best example because he just wasn't able to get his game started at all. He was just constantly getting taken down. And he was wasting so much energy just focused on, you know, getting back up rather than, you know, maybe getting some submissions to the ground or something, you know, working off the ground and reversing positions maybe. Okay, with Umar, his stand-up game is very, very good. Okay, he's not perfect everywhere, okay, but he is really good, okay? His boxing is pretty good. It's, you know, not the best, but his kicks are very, very fast. Like, Umar probably has the fastest kicks in the UFC right now, okay? I think Umar is probably a top 3 striker at bantamweight right now. I just don't think it's close on the feet at all with Merab. But the thing is, with Merab, I think the takedowns are going to be huge depending on how Umar decides to attack this, which I will talk about more later because I do want to talk about the grappling, okay? When I was talking about Merab spamming the takedowns on the strikers don't want to go to the ground because they're obviously worse there than Merab. Merab is probably a better grappler. But the thing is, Merab really is not the better grappler most of the time, okay? Against Sean O'Malley and, you know, all those guys, he is. But against Umar, it's really not close in my opinion, okay? Because Merab, he's kind of like that one scene in The Dark Knight when the Joker's talking and he's talking about how he's like a dog, you know, and he's chasing the car, and once he gets the car, he doesn't know what he's going to do with it. That's kind of like Merab with the takedowns. He just shoots the takedowns. He doesn't have any real goal with them because the moment he gets you down, he kind of just holds on to you. And then whether you get back up or not really doesn't matter to him because he's just going to keep shooting. That's basically his game. His game is to gas you out, which I don't think is going to be able to work on Umar because Umar's ground game is so good. This guy's been wrestling his entire life, okay? And his ground game is very similar to Khabib's where he has very good submissions and on top of that he is very good, you know, like ground and pound. So I think if Merab tries and takes him down, I don't think Umar is going to be trying to get back up immediately. I think if anything, Umar should at least look to reverse the position because the thing is with Merab is that he doesn't really have the greatest ground game, okay? I'm not saying he's bad on the ground, but is he really at that elite level just because he's a champion? That is basically the only reason anyone would say that, because if you really look at Merab's ground game, it's not the best. I don't know how many of you guys remember, but basically in a sambo competition a while back, like it was a local one, which, you know, makes just even worse, Merab had lost the sambo competition because a guy basically just laid on him and Merab couldn't get up, and he got very angry about this. And if a guy who's basically just some random off the street, this NPC who just went into a sambo competition, okay, obviously he's not an NPC, but look, he's just some guy. He's not a UFC champion. He's not this world-class wrestler, this Dagestani like Umar. If he's able to control Merab on the ground, what is Umar going to do? This guy who's been wrestling his entire life under Khabib and Islam and has this great ground game. I mean, I don't think Merab is going to be able to get up, okay? At least the same way I think Umar is probably going to be able to get up from Merab's ground game. Because Merab can't really hold you down. Again, he doesn't really know what he's doing. But my thing is, in this fight, it really depends on what Umar's game plan is. Because I don't think that this is like almost guaranteed for Umar to win. I don't think he's going to just knock out Merab. I really don't know if a knockout is going to be there. The thing is, with Merab, he really will just spam going forward unless you have a lot of power. The thing is with Sean O'Malley in that fight, when Merab kind of wasn't going as much as he probably would have in other fights, is because Sean O'Malley had so much power that if Merab just decided to rush in, he would get chinned, okay? And that's the thing, he might be able to do that with Umar, because Umar doesn't really seem to have a lot of power, okay? He does have some KO power, but to put Merab out cold, I just don't think he really has that. So I don't think Merab is going to be having that respect. I think he's probably going to be spamming takedowns. And my thing is, if Umar decides to stay on the feet and try and strike because he thinks he's better there or whatever, and Merab doesn't have good striking, I think he's going to have a way harder time than if he just tries to take down Merab, because again, Merab does not have this Bilal level takedown defense. I don't think he's going to be impossible to take down. On top of that, he's not very hard to control either. I think if Umar just takes down Merab, he will have the easiest domination of his life. If he really wants to, he can just go out there and embarrass Merab, okay? But the thing is, if he just decides to try and like strike or have an MMA match, try and get it on the feet, get a knockout, exciting knockout, whatever, this might end very badly for Umar, okay? Umar, I think he can handle that type of fight, but it's just going to be way harder. I think he'd probably win a 48-47 if he decides to go out there and strike with Merab and, have an MMA match. But I think if he just takes down Merab, because Merab has no ground game, he doesn't really have a stand-up either. That's another thing. It's like, Merab is not going to be desperate to get back up on the feet with Umar, because, again, he can't really strike either. So it doesn't really make sense for Merab to be trying to rush and get up and, just to shoot more takedowns. Like, if Umar just focused on taking down Merab, I think he will smoke him. But I'm just not too sure, because Team Khabib, they do have great game plans, and I think Umar probably will have a great game plan going into this fight, but it kind of worries me, because the way that Merab will win this fight is just by spamming takedowns and maybe gassing out Umar. Because Umar, from what I saw in the Corey Sandhagen fight, he didn't have the craziest cardio. He had pretty good cardio, like, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like the craziest thing ever. It's not even remotely close to Merab's cardio, because Merab's cardio is absolutely insane, the pace that he fights at. But if you can just slow down Merab, I think that is where Umar will probably beat Merab, okay? I don't really see this fight, staying in a clinch or something. Like, I don't think Merab is just going to be holding Umar down. Because the thing is, Umar is very, very good at wrestling. Like, I don't need to point out, obviously, this guy's Nurmagomedov at the end of his name. We've seen him wrestle. He's insane. I think if this goes against the clinch or whatever, they're just clinching in the middle, clinching against the fence, Umar's going to be able to, like, reverse the position into one, maybe that's more dominant or something, or maybe, go for a trip or something. I think that's where Umar is going to be very strong at. I think Umar, if he just takes down Merab, I'm going to keep saying this because I think it is very important, okay? Because I feel like a lot of people are going to be picking Umar by a KO or something, because that's where he's way better at, Umar's striking is very elite. But the thing is with Merab, you can't strike with him, okay? You can't strike with him because he's just going to keep trying to take you down. The thing is, Merab only has one weapon, which is the takedown. So if you just take that away from him, like, what is he supposed to do? He doesn't really have any submissions. He doesn't have any ground and pound. I just don't really see how Merab is going to win this in a way that makes him look good, to be honest. I think if he goes out there and does beat Umar, it's going to be a very boring fight. But look, I'm going to have to go with Umar probably by a 50-45, maybe by a finish in round 3, either a TKO or a submission, if he does go with a more wrestling heavy approach like I'm talking about. But if he goes out there and tries to strike and has an MMA match with Merab, I still think Umar is going to be better everywhere, but I just think it's going to be way harder. I'm probably going to pick Umar by 48-47, but I do think Merab has more of a chance to win if he does go with that type of approach. So I think 48-47 either way is very possible. Like, I really see one of those things happening, but I also I feel like Merab might get embarrassed, bro. If Umar really just does him dirty and, like, he just has no chance, like, I think Merab might actually get embarrassed, because again, like, he's fighting a guy who finally has good wrestling. Okay, and Petr Yan did have good wrestling, but it's not close to Umar's. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Let me know who you're picking in the main event. And yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. Alright.